All right, mic check 1 2 3. Hello, hello. Mic check 1 2 3. Hello, hello. How is everybody today? I'm so excited because today is going to be a really interesting and well requested live stream. We're actually going to be helping you build uh, the dashboards that you really want to have. And I guess like the big why here is, why we're building this is, your dashboard kind of sucks. In general, you try to put a lot of stuff on your dashboard because you think you want to track a lot of information, but then as time goes on, you might decide that, hey, I'm gonna slack off a little bit on this. Maybe I won't keep track of my finances just as much, or maybe, it's not as useful for you to keep track of various habits that you're working on, or maybe things just pile up because you spend a lot of time and energy on other avenues in your life. Maybe you're focusing really hard on your task and your success plan, and your habits kind of fall apart. And when that happens, if you have like a giant dashboard that has like everything you ever do, and they all start like building up because the backlog, as you know, just keeps coming and coming, it's not necessarily really intuitive or enjoyable to go through that whole process of cleaning up all the old data, which then makes you not motivated to get into your dashboard, which then, you guessed it, makes you not motivated to get things done. So the whole point that I'm going to try to teach you guys today is essentially how can we build the most meaningful dashboard that we can for yourself, and how can we make it work for you so that there's as few clicks as possible. One way that a lot of user experience UI designers, when they build really cool apps, is they try to limit the number of clicks or taps if it's a mobile phone, right? Mobile app. How little interactions can a user have with the application to then get to the actual use case that they want to get to. So today in this session, I want to be very interactive because I want to help you build your dashboards that you want. We're going to build it directly into the super package so that you can also duplicate it when the update comes out next week, because we have updates on the first week of every month. And essentially just be able to build something meaningful for you to use, and not something that you're not excited to use, not something that you may not enjoy using, but rather something that you have a direct need. There's a use case for you, how you might want to use it, and teach you how to upgrade it as time goes on. Because the most important lesson here is not exactly, hey, how do I do it, but then how can you do it? So with that in mind, let's get straight into it. If you are watching not on the actual YouTube live page, you should definitely, because that's how you're going to get access to the chat. You get access to the chat, you can ask me questions, I can answer them, and we can help build out your use case for you so that you can save time from having to learn how to build it yourself. But of course, thank you guys for watching, and let's get straight into it. So I'm going to share my screen, and do give me a shout if you guys can see my screen in the chat. Just let me know. You guys see my screen? All good, all good. We're here at the super package, which basically is just our Coix3's master template database, so to speak. It's all our templates kind of mixed together in one template where it's all cross-relational. Things work really well because we have the be intentional aspects of it, we have the gamification aspects of it, and they all merge up to be a really seamless package. But what we're going to focus on today is what we call, the dashboard for Keep It Simple dashboards. Now, the Keep It Simple dashboards is super interesting because, I kind of give you like a brief history, right? So when we first started building out our designs, we decided that, hey, we might like having 3 different dashboards to look at, where you would have one that we review all the time that's for executional steps. So on deck, it's everything to do with like execution, task, projects, planning our key results, planning our goals, like everything that we want to get our success plan done is in on deck. And then we will have a daily, things that would be like maintenance things, routine things, habit formation. We want to do things like, meaningful reviews, like finance tracking, that kind of thing. Or even meal tracking. Dashboards will be more like everything that we see that we want to see in the morning, evening. Like, what did we do good on today? What did we succeed in? What didn't we succeed in? What were things we did wrong? So we kind of had the idea that we should have 3 different dashboards to really focus on 3 different parts, 3 different actions of our lives, right? Of our day to day. And then as time went on, we decided that, hey, maybe that was great, but that doesn't really add on to the whole productivity, phenomenon that we were trying to explore, that was gamification. So we're like, whoa, what if we actually ended up having like a fantasy world, right? What if we end up being immersed in some kind of adventure, right? Whether it be, your favorite video game or your favorite, TV shows. How can we essentially feel like we are immersed inside this world that we are like, that we admire so much, that we adore so much, that we want to be in? How can we imagine ourselves in that kind of scenario and essentially play like we're playing the game, but rather it's the game of our own lives, right? So this is kind of an example of one of them. But then, as I mentioned when we first started this conversation, like, it's not exactly perfect in the fact that you have a lot of information now on one page, and the second that anything starts piling up, it gets really long, and you might not get as motivated to complete, your whole success plan anymore, because, well, you just have 10, 20, 30 backlog items, and it's just really, really frustrating. So what we ended up innovating on, and this was a recent innovation, I think 1 month ago, was something called the Keep It Simple dashboards. Now, the Keep It Simple dashboards are, I think, the culmination of everything I just mentioned before. You have the benefits of having different sections that you can essentially pinpoint and focus down when you need to do that specific type of work. And you get to have it all on one page so that you don't need to load different pages in different windows, different tabs, just to have the information you need. It's still on one, still all in one page, so to speak. But we leverage something called toggles, which is really interesting in Notion, because when you use toggles, you actually are able to hide the resources needed to load a particular database. What does that mean? Well, what it means is that if I go into the Keep It Simple dashboards, and I have 2 versions, one is for execute, one is for planning. Let's go into the execution one. And for the execution one, essentially what's happening here is we have a lot of toggles that hide things that you don't need to see until you actually need to use them, right? And when you untoggle, that is when Notion recognizes that that database needs to be loaded, and that's when the resources that start taking a toll on your computer start happening, right? Or on your phone. And this actually makes it really performant on mobile devices as well, because we have toggles hiding things. We don't need to scroll through, long databases, lots of information to get to what we want to get to, but instead, again, we're trying to aim for as few taps or as few clicks as possible. You just simply need to find the item inside your inside the dashboard, untoggle it, and then use it. Because one more interesting fact, and I'll near the middle or near the end of this live stream, I'll be showing how it works on mobile, so you guys can also see like the creations that we build, how it would take place on mobile and how it would work for you. But essentially, what would happen though is that the toggles that you expand on your desktop, for example, I'm expanding now the weekday schedule, I'm expanding, my morning routines, my daily quest. Let's expand also my timer. This doesn't automatically expand on my phone. So then the good thing is that this only expands inside our dashboard here for each device, meaning that it wouldn't be cluttered on your phone because you're only going to be showcasing the things that you want to showcase. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I want to give you just a quick brief of what this is about. And by the way, for this one, it's red, but you can actually recolor this. I can show you a hack to recolor this. One of our community members showed us how to recolor this on the desktop, so that if you're using dark mode, it can be completely black. If you're using light mode, then it can be completely white as well. I'm just on a different browser, so you can't see that. But anywho, the idea is that by using toggles, we can hide things and show things that we need to see. So for example, I can hide and show something like my weekday schedule when I want to see it, my daily quest. And usually, what I kind of do when I go through this Make Life Simple, I'm like, okay, so what do I do in the mornings? What is my first step in the mornings? And if I look at my weekday schedule here, right? Well, I want to do meditate. I want to do some management of myself. I want to do some, I want to eat breakfast, take care of myself, do my reflection. I want to exercise. I want to write, and then I'm going to go to work, catch up on meetings, all that kind of thing. So basically, when I first start the day, I want to plan my day, right? So I want to go and conduct structured planning. I'll get into that in a second because I want to talk about execution first. Assuming I did my planning, right? All the task that I need to do feeds into this toggle, which basically is these are only the tasks that are tagged in progress. So I'm extremely focused. So right now it's a very simple filter. It's only, hey, if it's a task and it's in progress, then show up here. Now, what we're going to show you is how do we make it more smarter than that? How do you make it even more meaningful than just, hey, if it's on progress, we want it to show up. And another interesting thing is how to save time is, well, if I want to finish something, well, I could either click into it, I can open this page, I can set, hey, this is the closing date of today, I finished it today, and, my status is now complete, and then I can do all that. Or what I can do, instead of having that was 4 clicks, I can now just one click drag that down to this section. Boom. This is now complete. It now has a closing date of the 29th because, again, we have filters here that say if the status is complete and the closing date is today, if I ever drag any new entries into this database, it will automatically assign those properties to it. So that's another hack that we're going to be really taking a lot of advantage of today. Of course, I can Control Z to bring it back up there. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm focusing on executing. Then what happens after I execute? Like, what's the next step? Let's say I'm going for lunch, what I do? Well, during lunchtime, I like to go and I like to keep in contact with people that I care about and people that care about me. So I open this one, keep loved ones close. During meal times, I reach out to my personal network and document notable conversations. So this is where I can expand that and then focus on that. Again, I'm untoggling the execution bit because I don't need to focus on my task while I'm having a good meal and talking to people that I care about, and I want to focus on this instead. Now I finish my lunch, I go back to work. I'm like, okay, great, time to focus again. Let's open up. Maybe I've already finished 2 of my priorities and now I'm working on my 3rd priority, and then I'm working on that. And again, you see that everything's very focused. I don't need to worry about anything in the backlog. I don't need to worry about anything, that's ready to start. I don't need to worry about, my projects, my goals, my key results, none of that, because ideally in the morning, I've already planned my day, and we're going to talk about that in a quick sec. But the idea here is that everything here is super, super focused. And again, I'm going to start talking about how you can upgrade this to fit your own unique use cases, depending on what you actually want to see, because your workflow may be different from mine, right? Maybe not, instead of just seeing the in progress, you also want to see things that are ready to start, that are scheduled to be done today or tomorrow, right? How do you do that? We'll show you. Another thing that's pretty interesting here is, let's say at the end of the day, you might want to start, reflecting. You might be reading on your subway transits home and to work. Maybe you're just, an avid reader and you want to improve your personal development. Well, this is where you can also store things like your residence calendar. But the idea is that this is infinitely customizable because you can just keep adding new toggles and keep adding new sections that are going to be meaningful for what you want to accomplish. And you don't need to have them all show up all the time, because then it's not exactly meaningful for you. And again, just more examples for that is, you can showcase your character stats, you can showcase your pets that you have to motivate yourself. And these are just things that, again, you can decide to show and hide depending on what kind of day that you want to run, right? So let me just quickly also talk about the planning side of it, and then so we can get a full big picture for us to really go deep into how you might want to modify everything to fit your own unique use cases. So again, you see, I saw portion for weekly check-in. So this is where I have my goals, I have my areas, just to make sure that all my goals are aligning with what I want to accomplish. I have things that are in progress, so I can check in on all that. I can see my areas, like what areas do I have to review, what areas that, I said like, weekly I want to review this, monthly I want to review this, where am I at right now in terms of review? So I can check in on all those kind of things. And then again, the really good thing about having like an overarching toggle is I can just toggle everything, it disappears. And now I can look at my daily fine tuning. Well, what am I looking at? Well, okay, so again, we talked about the flow in the morning is I want to wake up, I want to meditate so I'm fresh, then I want to do some planning. What am I planning about? I'm planning what do I want to see in my Make Life Simple dashboard to only see the things I will have to do today. Because we want the simplicity of a to-do list. We really do. We want a simplicity of, hey, these are my 3 to 5 items I want to get done today. Nothing else matters. I need to get all these things done. And this is the, chop, right? But then what we want also is the intentionality of being able to say, well, I actually want to know that this is building towards my bigger objectives in life. This is building towards my greater objectives, my goals. And, if I don't relate them in some way, I'm going to forget and I'm going to be demotivated because I'm not sure I'm actually doing anything that's relevant or useful for my eventual future. So this is how we fix that, how we solve that. Well, we come into here, we say, okay, so what are my key results for the week? What are the things that I want to accomplish for the week? What are my projects that are currently active that I've defined, maybe on the weekends that, hey, these are my 4 to 6 projects that I want to really work on this week. And these are things I want to work on. Then what's on my mission board? What's currently ready to start? What's currently backlogged? What can I necessarily start working on? And then now, what are my active quests? And again, we saw active quests, we're on this side, active quests are over here. And for example, this is something I made for a local Notion live stream. I made this for the Notion Australia live stream we had just on Wednesday, actually. But let's delete that for a sec. But basically, these are all ways that you see that it's very structured, right? If I want to see what projects I'm working on, I can untoggle that. If I want to see what key results, I untoggle that. But the really, really cool thing is that the mission board, again, I want as few clicks as possible. Again, I could just click in, change the status to in progress, it will pop up down here. Or I can just say, well, I want to drag it down here. I click and I drag, boom, I press cancel, it becomes in progress. I can now assign a priority. Simple as that. And the second I drag that in, this becomes right here, it jumps over to the other linked view that's on my Make Life Simple dashboard. So you can kind of see already the trend, right? The trend is that I want to have one place to do my big picture thinking, my planning, and then I want to be able to have things or actions I do inside that planning affect my actual to-do list, so that my to-do list is extremely focused, extremely centered on what I want to accomplish, and I don't need to worry about all the planning. I only need to spend 1 hour or half an hour every day on the planning bit, and then I'm happy to execute on what needs to work, and I'm still having the big picture in mind. So with that in mind, if you have any questions about what I presented so far, feel free to ask. But then I'm going to jump into an example of what I've done personally in my personal setup that's been really useful for me, using custom filter groups to help me essentially plan out what I need to see on my daily basis. But yeah, please feel free to also throw in like, what are your frustrations with your dashboards, right? What are you currently frustrated with that you might want, to improve? And we can explore how I can help you with that in this live stream here. So I'm gonna take a quick water break, but feel free to chat. And I think also like a good way to think about it is like, what do you see as your blockers every day, right? For me, my blockers when I'm working is if I see like a 20-page, or 20 item list of things to do, that bothers me to no end. Like if I look at the ready to start and the backlogged items and the blocked items, my list could be pretty long, right? It could be insanely long. But because I'm able to narrow down to say, hey, I only have 3 to 5 things to do today. These are the 3 to 5 things that matter for me to do. I don't need to worry about anything else. So it's really, really vital, I think, in that aspect. It's super vital that you are as intentional as possible in your planning, but as simple as possible in your execution. I think that's the best way to say it. But yeah, like feel free to let me know if there's anything specific you want to see. Otherwise, I'll just jump straight into what I have to share about the way I've been doing my structure planning. Awesome. Okay, well, so let's jump straight in. Oop. I was going to jump straight in to what I think would be useful for you guys. So basically, one thing that I started thinking about when I was building my mission board and my active quest and all that was, well, I want to sort all my quests by the dates that I have to do them, but my priority may differ depending on the impact of, of this task on my life, right? So impact value for me is, how useful or important it is in the eventual big picture, right, of my success plan or whatever I'm working towards. How does it benefit my success plan? So you can either sort this, like when you think about prioritization, like there's many ways you can prioritize, and that's what I'm trying to reference is that. So let me undo that so it jumps back up. But basically, if I didn't have any priorities here, right, and I wanted to be better able to assign priorities, what would be the best way? Well, right now I have a sort that says, hey, I want to sort by priority, by due dates, by impacts, by status, and then difficulty level, meaning that the priority comes first, even if the due dates is on an earlier dates. For example, if I change May 3rd to, let's say, the 29th, basically what happens is when I change the due date higher, because it's the same impact level, it's going to go above. So for me, I can now easily assign this as first priority. I can visually see that this probably should be my first priority. It helps me like prioritize tasks, similar to the Eisenhower method. But let's say that if I bring the impact level down to a medium, right, and then this actually is the higher value one first. So let's see what happens here. So, priority. So impact, we're talking about impact. Impact currently is below due date, right? So, but if I move impact above this, then obviously now it sorts by high, then semi-high, then medium. That doesn't matter what the due date is. Due date is a secondary sort. So it really depends on you, right? If you want to be sorting by your due dates or your impact value or etc. But the really cool thing is that the second that you assign that, let's say, hey, the due dates is actually not important to me, the impact value is more, but I go in and I see, hey, this one actually is super important, I need to do this now. I change this to first priority, it still jumps up to the top, which is really useful over here where it jumps up to the top no matter what. But what I want to share is that maybe I don't want that. Maybe I don't want in this view to be sorting by that priority, because if I sort by the priority here, then things get messed up. I actually want here to be sorting by the dates so that I can now see, hey, these are what I normally would sort through. So let me give you an example. That might be a bit convoluted, but let's say I remove this priority, right? So it kind of acts like that. And let's say I take out the sorting for the priority, or at least I make it like less important. Basically what I can do is that I say, okay, well, generally I like to say that the most impactful items come first, and then inside the most impactful items, then sort by the due dates. So if I say, okay, well, this one is April 29th, which is a long time ago, but let's say I make this high, this is going to be more higher priority than this high because the due date is earlier. But let's say I come in and I say this actually should still be my first priority because someone's waiting on me for it, I have obligations, that's fine. And then I select this as a second priority, and then I select this as a third priority. Again, I'm just planning. Within my Make Life Simple dashboard, this sorts as first, second, and third. So again, you see that the important bit here is that I'm actually now sorting based on priority here. So then I don't need to think about, hey, what comes first, what comes second. That doesn't matter anymore, because I'm simply just working off what I had already planned out in that, again, half an hour to an hour. So I'm extremely focused. I think that's the thing I'm gonna keep coming back to again and again. It's all about focus. Let's say that, right? So now that we have that focus, what filter groups are useful for us to work on? And I like to talk about filter groups, and I'm just looking on this side just to make sure I'm not missing any questions. But Basically, we also want to be able to see items that we may have missed before. So let me explain what that means. For example, inside this active quest, right, we might be like, okay, well, we have this filter here where type is task and status is in progress, but let's say I want to make this a filter group. So let me show you how that works. So a filter group is essentially, here, turn into group. Filter group essentially allows you to do more with your filters. Essentially, you can say, I want to have 2 different types of filter groups that essentially help me pull in information from 2 different places. And let me show you what that means. So if I go into here and I change this from, so I'm setting what was here previously, which was if it's a task and in progress, I want it to show up here, right? So that's very obvious. But I also want one where if it's a task, let's say it's going to be a type, if it's a task, and let's say I want one that says, actually this needs to be deleted, remove. So then here we have 2 filter groups. We have a or type is task, and the due dates, so the due date is tomorrow, right? It's on or before tomorrow, let's say. And let's say the status is not complete. So let's say the status is not complete. Status is not complete. So it's not complete. Okay, so what do we just do here? Basically, okay, so let's see, type is in this task, status is in progress, type is task. Oh, this needs to be and. This is where you can have filter issues. Okay, cool. So what happened here? I want to show you something. This is the interesting bit. So what, because I've used this for like a few months now, right? So I have a very unique set of things that I feel like I need to use in my day-to-day planning. So basically what happened is I was like, as I went on, I was like, okay, what matters to me is not just the things that are in progress, because I actually want this to be like, hey, this is my first priority, sure, but have I started working on it yet, right? I wanted this to also be my tracker in case like I got distracted, in case I got, I lost focus for a second. I want to be able to come back easily and say, hey, what is in progress, what is ready to start, what is complete, what is the stages of picking up that have I done, even though it's things that I have to do today, right? Because sometimes I might start about on one task here, and then I might switch to the second task if I'm getting a bit stuck and I want to work on something else on my next Pomodoro chunk. It's really meaningful for me to not just have in progress here all the time, but rather, hey, one of them maybe I'm ready to start, but oh no, right now the filters that we're working on actually removes it from this list if it's not in progress, right? So that's where I kind of wanted to go and say, hey, I actually want something more meaningful that reflects the type of work that I do. Again, the whole point of this live stream today is to show you how you can build the dashboards that you care about, that matters for you, and I'm happy to also cover your use cases. But let's talk about this, right? So what I ended up doing for this filter basically is saying like, hey, instead of just showing things that are in progress, show me any tasks that aren't complete that have a due date, right? DO, the date that I should do things, on or before tomorrow. So these are things that I need to get done before tomorrow, no matter if it's in progress or not, which then makes it really meaningful. And also really cool thing is that because the filter group for in progress is the first filter group here, I'm essentially still able to drag, let's say for this thing, I'm able to drag it down. And because it's down here, oh, it's already here, so I can't show you that, never mind. But if it wasn't already here, then I'd be able, oh, actually, no, let me show you. Okay, so let's say I remove the due date. So the due date is not on or before tomorrow. And basically, if I drag this down here like this, and pops up into here, then the due date gets scheduled to be tomorrow. So basically, you see that, maybe that was a bit fast. Let me show you again. So if I remove the due date, pops up back up here. So I'm looking at the one-on-one task. I drag it down here, boom. It immediately shows to be in progress. You see that? So then basically when I drag things down, it follows the first filter group that's here, which is still accurate because we still wanted to have that kind of behavior. We still wanted to drag it down and be able to have things automatically populate into in progress. But let's say I didn't want to do that. Let's say my prerogative was when I drag it down, I actually wanted to be dragging down and changing the due dates instead. I don't want to change the status of it because it doesn't make sense. I'm not actually working on it right now. I'm just moving it down to say I should work on it today, right? Again, we're talking about having a very targeted, specific to-do list, right, on the Make Life Simple page. So what we can do instead here is we can move this up. How do we move this up? There's a few ways. This way, the way I'm about to show is probably the less effective way, but here I think I can wrap another group. Oop, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, so what I can do here, so obviously the manual way is like, okay, I'm just going to replicate the things that I have up from down here up here, and let's follow that. So the status is not complete, and then I also want to add a filter for due date. DO is on or after, or on or before rather, on or before tomorrow. Or this status is in progress. But what I will show you later is that if you have more than one filter group, you can actually drag them around. But right now, I think if it's only two, right now Notion doesn't let you just drag it around, so you have to do it manually. But let's use the exact same exercise. So we have the one-on-one call. We move it down like this, we drag it in. Now you see that the ready to start hasn't changed, but the due date, the DO due date, is now assigned to be August 30th. So it's assigned to be by tomorrow. So that's something that's really interesting, right? And again, instead of saying tomorrow, what if we set today instead, right? So again, let's remove that date. So another example, not tomorrow, we want to say today. As long as it's on or before today, we want to get it done. So it's things to do today, which then makes perfect sense to me, right? So then I take this and then I drag it down, then boom, it becomes into today's due date and it's still ready to start. And now what's super meaningful is that if I replicate that process here, so instead of just saying, hey, I only want a binary, if it's a task and in progress, I want it to show up, but instead we actually want that nuance that we just designed in the planning page. Well, again, we turn this into a group, right? And we want this to show, we add a filter and then status is in progress, let's say. And then we also say or, and we say and here. This should be a group as well, or type is task. And we want to say the due date, DO date. Actually, let me show you something cool. So I could do everything manually, right? Or because everything's linked views, I can just delete this, go into here. I press these those six, I don't know, guess little dots on the side. And then I press Control C or Command C if you're on a Mac, so Windows or Mac. And then I do Command or Control V on your respective machines. And then immediately it populates here. And we have the exact same filter groups that was on the other page, but we just duplicated it over here. And we didn't duplicate the underlying database, we just duplicated the view. So the data is still the same, but we're just copying the filter groups that we appreciated, that we already built, so we don't have to redo everything. So that's an easy hack for you. But as I mentioned, for this page, what's important for me is that I want to sort it by that priority instead, because I care more about what I actually have to get done. So then I can see, oh, these are my priorities with my first, second, and third, even though over here, the priority list is different. So let's talk about that for a second, right? So now we have this amazing list here. That's not just things that I need to get done that I assigned that are already in progress, I'm already working on, but I'm also looking at the ones that, you know, are backlogged, but I scheduled it to be done today or by tomorrow, or I guess today is a filter group we just settled on, or it's already past due. It's something that we should have done a few days ago or a week ago or even months ago in this example, right? So what happens is now I can select my priorities. I can say, well, let's clear all these priorities first. And again, if I clear priorities, then you can see on the other dashboard, everything clears. So now it's fresh. And now in my morning when I'm trying to plan, I'm saying, okay, well, I can follow this. I can say, yes, this is probably my first priority to do. Yes, I agree, this is my second priority. No, I don't agree, this is my third priority. This is probably my third priority instead. And this is actually my, fifth priority. This is my fourth priority. This is my sixth priority, and this is my bonus quest to do if I have time. Cool. Now I come over here and I say, boom, this now ranks in terms of the proper priority that I care about. Again, I don't need to worry about the planning bit. It's like, hey, what's more important? Because I've already planned out in my morning. And then in this page, I can now only focus on what matters to me. Does that make sense so far? Hopefully that is like, it's like a small thing in your mind that kind of unlocks like a much bigger vision of what you could be doing with your dashboard. Like, really separating out when you should do certain kinds of planning and when you should just focus on your core execution, and how do you make it easy for yourself in regards to that. I think that's something that I'm trying to teach here. And then for example, now, like, I have this down here in this quest, so obviously it's not on my mission board. I don't need it to be on my mission board, right? If it's already down inside my success plan, it's already in my active quest. So let's now plan this out. Well, am I ready to start? Not only this task is as a task and ready to start, but maybe I also want to add a filter that says, well, I don't want the due date, the DO date, to have any dates, is empty, right? So now I see that this is the only one on my mission board that actually isn't in my active quest. And then if I drag it down to my active quest, boom, I add it in, and then I get to assign today's due date so that I know I should work on it. I'll Control Z to bring it back up. But basically now what's happening is that I can say that this filter is very, very succinct. I don't need to see duplicate information, because again, duplicate information is why even bother, right? You want to see very targeted, specific information that matters to you. So basically now we have this that doesn't show up in both sides. I only see the ones that are not actually inside my success plan. And I can keep going on, right? I can check my backlog. Again, you can see example task ABC is actually over here as well, example task ABC. So I'm going to turn on that filter as well that says, and I want a due date is empty. So then that doesn't show either. And you can see the second that I remove this due dates, right? For example, and one more thing too, really cool. Okay, so while I was working as well, I was like, okay, well, when I decide that I don't have enough time to work on something, let's say it was a bonus quest, or let's say it was something that maybe, it's not as important now that I thought it was more important when I was planning my morning, priorities have shifted, other things have taken place. How do I take things off of my to-do list? Okay, so this is where it's super meaningful. I want to go and say, I want to take things off my to-do list, but I want to clear that priority, because the next time I plan out this task, the priority may not be the same anymore. I may not have the same priority that is a bonus quest. Maybe at that time, it might be my first priority or my second priority, my third priority. I don't want to have to keep clearing that priority item. Again, I want to have as minimal clicks as possible. How does that happen? Well, I can say here, I'm going to add another filter, not just due date is empty, but also I want to have the priority is empty as well. So then I just take this example task ABC, which has a due date, which has a priority. I drag it up into this section. Oh, actually, it's a bit hard because there's no extra thing here. Let me just add something here to show you. So usually we would have a few more items there. So what you do is you just take this and then you drag, you put it on the side right here. Boom. Now, if I open up this task ABC, there's no priority and there's no due date, because again, the filters help you remove properties as well. So filters can help you add or remove properties, and that's a really meaningful bit of it. So now I can remove this entitled one because I just had it there to make it easier to drag things up. But let's say now I want to drag this one too, the final self-assessment report. Boom, I move it up here. Now it clears the priority. It also clears the due date, so that next time when I plan, let's say I'm ready to work on this on another day, I drag it down. Now the due date is filled, but the priority is for me to fill, because I don't know what the priority is now. It depends on the rest of my items on my to-do list, right? So that's another really cool way that you can use filters to your advantage to essentially be able to structure your planning in a more meaningful, engaging way. So that's another really useful thing that you could potentially use in your system. So again, moving this back, I want it here in the backlog, no problem. it's there. One really cool thing then to add on to here is also the similar. So the priority is going to be also is empty. Now, as I kept going on, I was like, okay, well, not just, being able to move things back into my backlog or moving things back into my ready to start, but when I'm working, I actually come up with new tasks to do, right? As I keep going, I have like, okay, oh my gosh, inspiration. I have this new task I want to work on. How do I store it? How do I make sure it's not a task that I've already been working on before, right? Because that's the worst thing. Usually when I look at my to-do list, I see like, 3 duplicates, right? Because I think I have like a really innovative idea. I write it down and I'm like, well, I already wrote this down last week. Whoops. How do I stop that from happening? So let's tackle that. But before that, let me quickly add on the filters that we missed. So this is going to be priority is empty, and then I'm also going to add another one for I want the due dates is empty. Awesome. Okay, so what do I do here in this situation? I want to have a situation where, okay, I want to add on tasks really easily. So what should I call that? So I call it new submissions. So I'm just going to take any one of these. I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to call it new submissions. So let's call it new submissions, and it ensures helps with checking for duplicates. This is a bit long, but it's just useful to explain. Useful to explain what exactly this is going to do for us. But if I click into here, and I'm actually going to make this a list because it's going to be more easy to read on a phone as well. Because at the end of this live stream, I want to show you exactly how it works on a mobile device, which is something I think a lot of people want to know, because it's important to have a mobile device ready view when you're actually going to be working on your to-do list. You're not always going to be at your desktop, right? You're not always going to be having this much screen real estate. So when you have a much smaller real estate, how do you work on it? How do you make it more meaningful? So that's what we're going to show. So I want to have filter. I just want to say, I don't care about this. I'm going to remove the due dates. I'm going to remove the priority, but I want to say, as long as the TAD status is not complete, and the status, is not in progress, I want this to show up here. And I also want to show the properties of status here. So I can see these are the ready to start, these are the backlogs, these are ready to start. I also probably want like a different kind of sort. I want to sort it based on the status. So I want to see backlogs are ready to start first. So let's change this. I want descending. So these are my ready to start. These are my backlogs. So when I come in and I say I want to add a new task to do, so again, let's say I'm happily executing, I'm working hard, and then while I'm working on this task here, I realize that there's another task that I might be missing. I go into this page, I'm saying, okay, well, and I'll probably have other things kind of hidden while I'm on this page, so I'm really structured, right? I come on this page and I'm like, okay, awesome. I want to add a new submission. I'm going to throw it in here. I'm going to say I want, example BBB task, right? But I also want to make it really meaningful. I want to be like, well, I'm going to say it's a new awesome quest, so I can autofill a lot of the entries that I need. But I also want to relate this to a project I'm working on. And of course, if I'm working on the same project, it's very easy for me to just pick and choose, hey, this is a relevant task related to the project I'm currently working on. But what I really like about this is that now, because I can see all my projects that I've already detailed I should be working on for this week, I can actually just look at this. Hey, does it fit into any of the ones I've actually been thinking about this week? Did I want to get a puppy, stand out at work? Is it ad hoc? Is it I want to build up family relationships? What is the overall project I'm working on? And depending on this, I'm like, okay, actually this task has to do with family. So I'm going to go and upstream say that, this BBB task, I'm going to upstream and say that it is family. So I'll type family here. And then when I type family, it's going to show up the family one. So I want to build up family relationships, and that becomes my project to do. And it makes it really easy for me to relate upstream. I think that was another thing that I was frustrated with usually when I'm working on my to-do list is, hey, I have a really cool task to do, but I'm not exactly sure how it fits into the bigger picture of my planning in life. this is how you can do it. This is the easy way of how you can just add on a new task, relate it immediately to your projects because you already see your projects at a glance. And if you can also say, hey, I want a new project, right? I want to add a new project, so you can see, hey, what key results am I working on for this week? Something like that. So that's another really big idea that I want to make sure that that comes across, is making sure that you have a really easy way to not only, you know, move back items that you're working on, but also add new items you're working on. And hopefully that helped. Any questions, keep asking. I'm going to keep going through other examples as well, but just taking a quick water break. And remember, guys, to get to the chat, you guys want to open up the YouTube link. So it's not just like an embedded view, but if you go on the actual YouTube page, you can then join the discussion and chat together with us. Yeah. All right. So I guess this is a good chance for me to also like make sure that if you guys have any interesting dashboards you want me to build, like I'm really happy to. So far, these are my examples. This is what was useful for me when I was working, because again, I can only build what's good for me. It's not what's necessarily good for you. So if you have any thoughts about like, hey, when you're planning, when you're doing your day-to-day, what's important to you, I'm happy to build it in so that it's included in next week's update so that you can also benefit from it as well. Yeah. Sebastian, hey, good to see you. So, ad hoc. Is ad hoc just meant to be what's in the agenda for the day? No, ad hoc actually is it's an ad hoc project, as the name suggests, but basically it's for those random straggler tasks that you don't really know where it should relate to. So it's not something I like to practice. It's just something I built because some community members were asking for it, and I do have uses for it from time to time. But it's those like really random tasks that cross your desk that you don't really know to which big picture you're kind of aiming towards. But it's just there for you to assign something to the project, so you don't like it's not a straggler. Yeah. And the tag, what the tag is for. So you're talking about the tag here. This one, tags, the 25-minute task. No problem, Sebastian. Happy to answer. 25-minute task. Are you talking about this one? No. Or it was the same question. Got it. I got it. You meant the ad hoc tag. Got it. Yeah. So the ad hoc just like that. It's just making sure you have something to relate to. Yeah. Perfect. Cool. So let's do a quick recap of what we just discussed, and I think it's really meaningful to do that. What we just created for meaningful filters is I have a filter now that's going to help me make it really clear when I'm on my active quest, you know, how I should prioritize. And again, you can change this however you want. If you want your impact value to be the way that you kind of sort through what's important for your quest list at a glance, that's totally fine. Otherwise, you might want, your sort list. So if it's an impact value you want to sort on, that's fine. If it's a due date instead, so you want your due date to be kind of your first kind of glance in terms of your priority level, that's totally fine too. You know, you might even have a different property. The idea is that I'm teaching you the exact way so that you can make it so that your data is not only just sitting there, but it's extremely meaningful. You know, at a glance, you can immediately see, you know, how you should prioritize, and if there's something else that catches your eye, you can prioritize that earlier. And then when you are going to your actual dashboard where you're executing, it only sorts by that priority property so that you know what exactly you're getting into and what you're working on. That is the big idea we have here, and I cannot overemphasize like how important that is, because that makes it so clear that when you are planning, you're only focusing on planning, and your planning is already kind of offset. It's already, you know, made so easy for you because the sorting is already there based on how you prefer to sort things, right? So for example, again, if I make this medium and I make this, you know, low, then basically it sorts like this, and I'm like, okay, well, based on what I normally like, this would be first priority, this would be second priority, third priority, etc. But because I know that this actually has some other underlying context, I can then throw in this to be a higher priority. We've also made it really easy for you to essentially add on, different, how do you drag things between each other? How do I drag from a ready to start into, I want to start it. It's not going to change the status of it, but it is going to say that today I want to do it, right? So that makes it really meaningful. And again, vice versa. Oh, actually, let me just drag it back manually. Vice versa, I drag it back manually. Sure. Sucks. Okay, the only thing is that it's a bit hard to drag if there's nothing else there. That's the only like a little bug with Notion. But yes, for example, if I drag this down and then I drag it back up again, it would essentially clear out all the attributes that I did add when I moved it into here, and it clears out when I bring it back there. It's super meaningful. And again, if I also want to add on new submissions, which helps with checking for duplicates, I can see everything at a glance. All these things are either backlog, ready to start, or blocked. I can now add a new task that doesn't have a duplicate, and I can say, hey, what actually am I relating it to? What exactly am I relating it to? Another cool way of doing this, just to give you another example, is if I duplicate this and I say, instead of a list view, I want this to be a table view because I want this to be easily manipulable. I make it a table view, and let's say I hide a lot of the other properties. I only want status. I don't really care about impact right now. I don't care about due date right now. I don't care about difficulty rating. I don't care about tags even. I don't care about gold reward. I don't care about upstream, but instead I just really care about, hey, what task am I adding? And also what project does it relate to? So let's say I have upstream. I have upstream for master, and I also have upstream for the projects. So basically I can see like, hey, this is what I want to build. This is a new task I want to build. This is the exact project it relates to. And again, I'll use the same example, BBB. I can rename it to example CCC, and I can immediately do the upstream without having to click in like how we had to do for the list, right? So the list, I had to click in, it had to open a new window, which again, more clicks, more lag. You don't want clicks in this right now. So it makes it really easy to say, hey, this is actually my list. This is one click, I can select the upstream, and it's really simple as that. So that's another really cool thing that you can do. And again, the beauty of your toggles is that you can actually only see the things that you want to see. And everything we applied for the active quest and the mission board actually also applies for your success plan in projects as well, because then you can also do similar filters, right? Instead of just filtering on progress, I also want to filter for the for anything that I have to do, like the due dates is set, but it's not actually in progress yet because I've actually hidden it behind the ready to start. But this one's up to you, because the way that I work with projects is I am very meaningful in terms of like, I want to change from ready to start to in progress only for the week that I want to plan on working on those projects. Otherwise, I don't really want that there. So that's really up to you. Yeah. Dean asked a really good question. What is the difference between upstream and upstream master? So this is really meaningful because upstream actually relates up to your success plan, which is your projects. It's upstream of your task. But upstream of your success plan in terms of task in your areas of competence is your masters or trackers. So let me quickly show you what that means. So I will just show you based on this page here. If I go to the alignment page, we have a big picture kind of view to show you what we're talking about. So if you are working on a task, the upstream of a task is a project, right? But then the upstream of a task inside the areas of competence is actually a masters and trackers, because this actually helps you essentially say like, hey, I have this maintenance item that I've been working on. This is standard operating procedure that I've immortalized over time. This is the best way to do this specific thing, but times may change, right? Things may be different from time to time. So for example, let's use a real example, right? So I have here, a weekly check-in, and the weekly check-in here, I have an item for not just goals, but I have for areas. For example, I have a finance tracker, let's just say, right? And my finance tracker weekly, I want to make sure that, hey, everything's still on track. For now we've built in like, a debt tracker. We've built, mortgage payments. We've built, how do you calculate your salary plus your rents plus your spend, what's your remainder and all that kind of thing. But let's say all of a sudden you say, hey, I actually have one more thing that I want to track now. I have additional income. Maybe you have a side hustle, right? Well, then you can say, I actually want to add on a task to do here that says that I want to add on additional properties to track side hustle income. And then that would make a task that actually has your upstream to be the finance tracker. Does that make sense? Because if I'm looking again at the alignment, like basically the task can be tasks that you build towards your definite areas of your life, so your success plan, or it can also be building up towards your standard operating procedures as a maintenance effort or as a way to improve your master and tracker. That's a pretty big concept, which is a really good question, and I'm happy to explain it again if you need it. Like, just ask me where you're confused. Basically, I'm just saying that, your maintenance items to improve your current standard operating procedures can be done immediately, which means you don't need to make a task for it. But if you don't have the bandwidth to do it now, but you have looked at it and say, hey, this needs a bit of updating. Maybe my time boxing schedule, right now I have, I have all these items, but I actually want to change it up. I want to add my new schedule. Maybe I'm moving overseas. Maybe I have a new career, a new job, and I need to change my schedule up. I don't know what that is yet, but I do know that needs to happen. So I'm just going to make a task to schedule that for later. So basically what I can do now is I can say, well, I want to say, let's say I have a new task down here. So I'm gonna click on that, and I'm gonna say, over here, I want to say I want to, change up schedule for a new job / career, right? So I've made that new item, and then now I click on this, and then I go down to the bottom. We do the new awesome quest, and we can see that actually it's already auto-filled for time boxing schedule here. So what we can do now is we can look into the backlog as we looked at that before. So we have a backlog, change up schedule for new job and career, and the upstream is actually a time boxing schedule instead of an upstream for a definite item, upstream for a success plan. Does that make sense? Hopefully that does. That's just another way of you doing relations. And actually, I had a really good question yesterday. Someone asked for consulting help on this, where they wanted to incentivize their employees basically to build out a proper standard operating procedure so that everybody has the right guidelines on how to do a specific function inside the company. And basically they wanted to track a way to see who essentially started contributing towards that master, right? That's standard operating procedure, and how can they get rewarded. So this is the exact way, right? If I do a task, no matter if it's related towards a master or your success plan, you will still get the gold rewards. So if I drag this down from here over down to quest here, you can see that it's a 50 gold reward. And of course that 50 gold reward can change. If I make this a 3, if I make this a 5, that changes the gold reward as well. So it makes it really simple to do that kind of manipulation, and hopefully that made sense. Yeah, but that's a really good question. Thanks for asking, Nadine. So let's delete that now because I think that's not relevant. But yeah, so I guess another cool thing I could show. Let me just see how we are on time, because I just want to make sure I get you guys like the basic fundamentals so that you guys can keep on improving it. Like, my passion is making sure that you guys succeed. And for me, there's many ways that I do things which are now passed on, and you guys can try. But I think the most meaningful usually is things that you can do on your own, that you figure out, hey, this is a meaningful workflow for me, and this is how I think about things, and therefore this is why it's useful for me. Like, for example, like another really cool way you can use filters is that, let's say for example, I am working on, normally the way that I like to add on new quests is not having necessarily a lot of kind of variance. Like I want them always to be like, hey, I want them to be starting off like low impact. I want to be starting them off at one difficulty level, and then only if I need to change it, I meaningfully go in and say, hey, this is higher impact for me. It's not low, it's going to be medium, it's going to be etc. But also those are all things that are managed by your filters, right? So for example, I go into this project, getting a puppy, for example, and I scroll down to the bottom of this page and I say, hey, I want to add a new task. You can see immediately what happens is because of my filters, and let's say I add a new awesome quest. These are my filters. Difficulty level is 1, impact is low, right? But because you can actually change that depending on, if I undo that, Control Z, and can I undo that? Okay, no, it's not that easy to undo. Okay, let me just delete this for a second, because it doesn't matter. But let's say I go back into getting a puppy, and then I select the new option again, and I see what I actually just did just now. I check this template. Basically, what it means is that I've said I wanted it to be a low impact. I want to be difficulty level 1, but you can change these as you wish so that when you automatically generate a new quest, it's a lot more meaningful to you. Maybe most of your tasks that you do are 1 hour on average, not 25 minutes on average. So then you change this to 2. Let's say most things that you do are pretty important, so you change the impact to higher, and it's really up to you. Yeah. And then Dean had a good follow-up question to her previous question about upstreams and masters. Basically, if you have a project that evolves in capacity and qualifies to become a master, can you change its type while its downstream items still remain linked? And you're exactly right. Yes, they will. So basically, when you are done with a project and it's super successful and you want to move that over to a master, all you have to do is just simply move it over by actually just clicking this and clicking move to, and then that actually moves it over to your areas of competence. You can now select your different properties. You can add and subtract, and the tasks are still very much relatable. But one thing that I usually do is I actually just make a new master, because a new master is like kind of the new life cycle of that standard operating procedure. Your project is still your experiment, and your experiment may have many variables that may not have been useful or may not have worked perfectly. So what I normally like to do is I like to make just a new entry inside my areas of competence database to then house that master, and then I just kind of summarize the best points. Like for example, usually I would have a lot of notes here that kind of explain what really worked for me. I take those notes, I put it into the master, and then I use that as my means of, moving forward from there. So I don't necessarily just directly move this project. Instead, I summarize which projects, like, because it could have been many, right? Many projects together made this successful outcome, and helped me achieve my goal. Therefore, I'm going to be able to use this as my best practices in a summary. Yeah. Cool. Good question so far as well. But again, yeah, so you can see like the way I've designed this. So let's again hide everything again, and I guess I'll wrap it up unless you guys have more questions for me in terms of like a specific kind of dashboard that you want to see. But basically, like for example, I come in every day, I'm like, okay, today is my daily fine-tuning. It's not my weekly check-in. My weekly check-in is for my end of the week, right? Where I'm looking big picture, where are my goals, am I on track on my key results? But my daily fine-tuning is just making sure that, hey, I've assigned myself, various key results to be done this week. These are my projects I'm trying to focus on. Maybe if I want to navigate to other parts of my life, I go to my areas of competence. I'm like, okay, so what's currently am I working on in my mindset? These are all my goals for my mindset right now that are in progress. These are my sub areas. This is kind of my folder structure for navigation, right? And that's also useful for this page. But you can see that it's very performance. I'm not lagging at all. And the really useful and meaningful way for me to get around is through toggles and then meaningful filters. And I guess also to add on is like, I want to show you how it looks on the mobile, right? Because the mobile view, I think, is really the most important. Most of the time we are on our mobiles, and how can we make it really easy for us to add in information, edit information, get things from, A to D, even if you're not currently, at your desk, right? So let me just pull up, for example, I want to get the make life simple. So on my phone, I'm actually on dark mode, so it looks a little bit different. But basically, you know, let's see if I can show you guys. Yeah, I wish I had like a screen sharing software on my phone. Maybe I'll upgrade that for next time. But let me move into my full webcam view. So basically, this is kind of how, tap it here. Yeah, so this is how it kind of looks on my phone. So let's see how I can zoom in here. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, perfect. So this is kind of how it looks on the phone, right? And then you can basically see all these toggles. You come in here, it's not like convoluted at all, because usually most dashboards like have so much data and it's so hard to navigate, right? It's not convoluted at all. And then if I can just select, let's say I want to start executing, so let's get crack-a-lacking. It's my daily quest. So I expanded the daily quest, and then again, let me zoom in a bit. So I started up daily quest, and then I can just tap on this and I can start working on my daily quest. And these are things I can start checking off, you know, as I go through. You know, I can basically, you know, get percentages as I'm done through the day. I can, you know, map out what I ate for breakfast, do some meal prep, all those kind of things, and the meal planning. So it's really easy to get into, and then I can just get out again easily by pressing the back button. And then when I press the back button, I'm back into this page. And then again, I'm done with my daily quest. For example, I can hide it. Ooh, this is really hard. But then basically, like, I can see this now again, and then I can say, well, I'm ready to start working on my day. I'm gonna go get that bread. Again, these are just funny ways that I like to say things just to make myself more motivated to get things done. But basically, I go and I can say, well, I'm gonna untoggle that, go get that bread. And then again, basically, you can see, again, you have this toggle just for your daily execution, right? And then again, I can click on this and I can see these are all my tasks to do. These are my quests to do. And then I scroll down, you know, these are all the things I have to do. I can see the priority of them. And again, maybe, just maybe here, I want to say, okay, the status doesn't matter for me when I'm on my mobile, right? Maybe on my mobile, I care more about, you know, actually being able to see my various items to do instead. So items matter more to me. So then maybe, so I'm going to show my screen again. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to say the name matters more before in progress, right? Maybe I want to see the name first, and then I want to see the in progress. So once I do that, then what happens is immediately on my phone, so let me change back to this, immediately on my phone, this has changed. So, oh, sorry, let me do this. So immediately on my phone, this has changed. Now I can easily see the name of the item that I'm working on. And here is where you can kind of see why I like doing list views instead, for at least on the mobile view. So let me show you how the list view will look. So for example, if I now add like instead of this as a table view, and I want a list view instead. So remember, these are my properties that I want. So it's not complete, on or before today, task in progress, right? So let's say I change this to a list view, and I'm also just going to hide a lot of the variables because I don't really care about them. I don't want things to be clogging my look. So I have all these things, and maybe, excuse me, I just want to see like a status even, okay? And then here I'm going to add the same filters that we just had before. So we're going to make this into a group. We're going to add this into and status, or actually let's do the other one first. So and due dates is on or before today. And then I want another one. These are ands. And I want to have, you know, the status is not complete. It's not complete. And then I want to add another filter group. I think the best way is to just duplicate this. Then I remove this. Or I want to say status is in progress. Perfect. So now we have the exact same filters. I also want to sort now by, I want to add a sort. It's going to be on priority. We talked about not progress bar, priority. And priority is going to be, double check, make sure it's ascending or descending. sort priority is ascending. Perfect. So now this is the same list, but now it's on a list view. And what's really meaningful about a list view is that now, so for example, now I'm on my mobile, right? And then again, I'm just gonna focus the camera for a sec so it's easier for you guys to see. So I'm on my mobile, and then let's say I go into my quests here, and I can change into this list view. So this list view makes it a lot easier for me to see. Now I can see that exactly these are the things in progress. These are things, this is the gold bounty I'm gonna use. So basically the gold bounty helps me gauge like how difficult of a task it is, how difficult of a quest it is. But basically now I can scroll through and I can see, these are things I need to work on. And I can just click on it and I can easily start working on it. So this is like the really, really interesting and meaningful way to build out your system. And again, the cool thing about Notion is that each device can have different each device can have different toggles on and off. And on top of that, even though on my mobile, I've decided to use the list view, on the desktop, I can use the table view and it will not overwrite what I'm currently looking at on my phone. So my phone will always stay in the list view if you want it to be. So this makes it really easy to kind of this is really easy for you to kind of focus on what needs to be done. And then, yeah, so I see Dean had a funny comment. I definitely need to do some screen share for my phone. But yeah, like I'm super happy about being able to share this with you guys, because this has no doubt made my productivity like 10 times better, because on my phone I'm able to be as focused as I am on my computer. And the whole idea is that we're making life simple. We're making dashboards that really just focus to the core of exactly what needs to be done in this specific moment of time and nothing else, right? You don't need to worry about anything else at all. You just need to focus on exactly what you need to work on right now. And I think that's just very meaningful, and I think that's the best way to do things. And yeah, I'll take a few more questions if you guys have. Otherwise, that's kind of the brunt of what I wanted to show you guys. And of course, now that I've added that kind of view over to here, right, I can do the same thing. I can highlight this, I can Control C or Command C. I can bring it back to here because I want a similar view here. So let's say I put it here, Control V or Command V as well. And then now that's inside here. I'm going to remove this, delete. And again, what I said here is that I want this to have a sort that's a bit different. I want this to sort by the impact and due date before priority. And the same thing for here. I want this to sort by impact and due date before priority. So boom, just like that. And I'm able to also now manage this from my mobile if I want to be on this page. So yeah, it's super fun, super easy. And you can just really mix and match anything that you want. Oh, and the new submissions. Okay, so someone asked me this before, right? For new submissions, how can you make it really, really easy for you to add just new items to your to-do list? How do you make it super easy so that, I'm on the go, I just want to throw something in, I don't want to worry about much, if anything at all. How do I do that? Okay, so we talked about this already, right? Let's go into, again, I'm going to share for the last time my face and my phone. But basically, I'm going to get into the conduct structure planning page. So conduct structure planning page is here. Okay, so I'm on this page, conduct structure planning, right? So again, I'm going to zoom in for a second. And then I'm going to scroll down a bit. And essentially, as I mentioned, everything's still hidden in toggles, even though my desktop, I have untoggled everything, right? And then I go in and I see, okay, very short, very easy. I just want to go into my mission board. And then I'm going to go not just ready to start, but I want this to show my new submissions. And again, I want the list view. The list view is easier for me to see. And these are my new submissions, and I can add new just right here. But let's say you don't even want to go for that step. Let's say you don't even want to go into the step of like, I want to, click in, I want to get there, it's just too frustrating. No problem. Click this little, you see this little icon here for this, this icon, the little arrows expanding diagonally. If you click on that, what happens is you have a full page view of that specific view that we were just looking at for the new submission. So if I scroll down, you see this is still the new submissions filter view. So what happens here is that I can now click on this top 3 buttons here, these, and I can say add to favorites. If I say add to favorites here, what happens is now in your sidebar, you have a favorites here for success plan. And then here you can click it and you can immediately go to this exact view. You have your new submissions. So that, again, we're limiting down clicks. You are 2 clicks away. Open up the app and then click the new submissions in your favorite tab. And then you immediately get here, you can add a new submission. So it's super, super easy. I think, you know, it's a really meaningful way to get things done. And hopefully that was helpful for you. If you enjoyed it, do stay tuned. We do live streams every Friday and we have a new video every Saturday. We have a new awesome, cool series called How We Use Tools to Live Our Best Life and Get Things Done, which basically just explains how we use tools like Notion to really just make our life a lot more meaningful and make work fun so we get things done. Thanks guys for watching. Really appreciate you guys being here. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week. If it's nighttime for you, have a great night. If it's already morning for you, like it is here in lovely Singapore, then have a great rest of your weekend. Y'all take care, and I appreciate having you guys here. Bye bye now.